I thought I'd do a video, just a quick one, on how I make the joiner boxes for the Rico and for the Lunatic. As you can see laid out here, I've used a carbon Kevlar hybrid sort of weave. You can probably see that pretty well. Just because I have some, I want to use the Kevlar mainly for the bursting strength. These are the kind of things that we're making. This is the joiner for the Rico. The tubes fit fairly nicely, and they're compressed really well, so they conform to the shape pretty well. Now this is the mould I used for making that joiner bar, and you can see there's one in it there at the moment. See, it's got twins. You should be able to see that. It's got two cores, which means that you get a run of carbon up through the middle as well, which helps with stiffness. This guy isn't ready to box open yet, but the main point I wanted to make about this was when I made this mould I used a aluminium plug which was 30 by 15, and I've since come to realise now that I've got a slightly thinner percentage wing, I'm down to an 8% wing, that the 15's too heavy, so you won't be able to see it really, but there's a 3mm piece of polycarbonate laid in here on the inside of the mould, so basically I end up with a 30 by 12. Now the only problem with that was that when I make the joiner tubes I can't use the aluminium as I do with the Lunatic. So this is the mandrel, I suppose, that we wrap the Lunatic joiner boxes around, which is aluminium, which is quite good. It's got 2 or 3 wraps of go-between on it, which is just a bit heavier than freezer bag. So for the Rico I actually had to lay up a glass and carbon joiner bar, which I could then cut and use as a as a mandrel. So that's what they are. That's why they're different, those two. So essentially all I do is go a wrap and about a width of this material. It doesn't need to be a whole lot. So I'll mix some resin, get some gloves on, and we can keep going with the process. As you can see, I've done a fair bit of preparation for today. I've also cut a few more sets than these. They're in the folders here. I just use manila folders, put cut fabric in. And a couple of things that are really handy is one is to have tape already dispensed and hanging ready to go for when your hands are all wet and sticky, and the other thing is just to get yourself some paper towel ready, because you're going to need that as well. Alright, so now that's done, we can mix some resin. Okay, it's too much mucking around to turn the camera around, but basically what I've done is warmed the epoxy, and you'll see that in the photo that I insert now. Okay, so that's good. You have to be careful though, you don't overheat it, and if you do manage to get a little bit warmer than you'd like, you just get it out quick so you get it thin, so it doesn't go off in your hand. Essentially all we're going to do is wet this out, but we're not going to wet out all of the glass, so that the glass will have something to stick to on the mandrel. So essentially for starters we'll wet out the carbon Kevlar. Which is the bulk of it anyway. you've got to do really is leave yourself a little bit. And you just paste a little bit on top of the mandrels, just to give the cloth something to stick to, just on one side. Okay, we'll see how that works in just a minute. Okay, just credit card sort of style of card. Just going to work that resin around to make sure it's even and to make sure it actually penetrates through the cloth, because it's fairly heavy cloth. I think after doing this for so long that I would learn to make sure my sleeves aren't hanging in the resin. But there you go. Now I've used a slightly faster setting resin today. I normally use Kinetics R246 with the super fast hardener, the H126. But I have a little supply, thanks to Matthew, my son, of the R240, which by all indications gives you half the working time of the 246. It's basically whatever you had before, you're working with a lot less now. Okay. Now I'm not really sure whether he's the short tag or the long tag, but I might just make sure the long tag's got a little bit of resin on it, just not quite to the edge, just so nothing ends up dry in there. But I'll try one and we'll see how we go. As you can imagine, this is all going to get squeezed. These are going to go in the vacuum bag, so you shouldn't end up with dry material anyway. But no point guessing when you can be sure. Okay, so let's do one of the bigger ones. It's got resin on top. Might try it this way, see how it goes. So the resin should just grab that, just like that. Okay, we'll just take it back a little so that we're not trying to bend that around the edge to start with. And essentially all we're going to do is just roll it up. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now you don't have to do much with it just now. Okay, so now that we've got that on, we're going to put the peel ply on, which is again just carefully make sure you're rolling it the same way as the other stuff rolled on, basically. And then we're going to leave that tag hanging up. So if we just put this in the bag now, what you find is that the corners would all pinch very tight and you'd end up with, you know, bulges or whatever. The bag wouldn't pull it all down tight. So the process that we use, which I picked up from, let me see, I can't remember whether it was from Shane Spoor or from Sean Maloney, but essentially I think it was Sean. PVC. These ones are the exact width that you want the box to be, and then the short ones float to the outside. That's why you leave the tag up, so that once this has been in the bag, you've got something to grab onto that isn't full of resin. Okay, so essentially we just cinch it down, make sure we've got a good grip, piece of tape around the end. And there you go, there's one ready to go in the box. So, I'll leave the video running, I'll do the others, and I'll speed it up. And then we can have a look at some commentary when it's ready to go in the bag. Okay, as usual, just set that aside like that, just so we can check and make sure that that's gone off properly. I can get rid of most of the resin here. I can get rid of these. Okay. So, now we need a vacuum bag. Okay. This is one of my new frogs that I've made. So essentially, this is a cistern plug from Bunnings. What I've done is drilled a hole in the top of it, bottom of it, whichever way it is. Just bring it up and show you. Okay, so I've drilled holes in each of the flanges to meet up with that hole. I get a brass fitting with a barb on it that just fits on the inside there, so I've just roughened up the inside of this, on the inside of that piece, and glued it in. So then the quick fitting, I use the 6mm snap fittings for everything, just fits into the top of that. Then this is the nut that comes with the cistern plug, and that's essentially your frog. Now, the other thing that they sell at Bunnings is, can't quite see where I put mine yet, is this kit. Okay, just seating washers. So these are Kinetic. This was a Kinetic brand as well, and those washers are a very good size for here. And all I've done really is put a round PVC washer on the top, so that it takes up all of that rubber washer. There you go. So that's how those frogs were made. And I have a vacuum line just hanging up here, which just basically snaps into there. So, yep. Which is all very good. Okay, let's get these inside. Now, the only thing I haven't done with these yet is wrap them in a bit of paper. That way that will take up any excess resin and you won't end up with resin all through your bag. Okay, some vacuum material there, and then all we need to do is make sure that we connect these things. So we'll run some paper towel across. The other thing that paper towel does, of course, is provide airflow. So we run that across there like that, run this guy up here like that. And that should be us ready to go. What I'll do is stop the movie in a minute, and I'll start it up again when I unbox these things, so you can just get in a, so you can just see how they come out, and what they look like when they're done. All right, just turn the vacuum on. We are running. Just fold the bag up a little bit so that you're not stretching things too badly. It's important to make sure these things don't have sharp edges, of course. When I vacuum the wings for the Lunatic, I have these little bits of felt that I slide onto the ends, and I loop the mandrel up and put it actually inside the box to make sure that if any resin actually gets in the box during the vacuum bagging process, that it doesn't make the box too small, that the joiner will fit in. So the other thing to do here is just to make sure these things are sitting there, because of course you could have them sitting, a bit skew if you just left them to their own devices. So it's just a matter of, yep, that looks pretty good. All right. I think that's it for today. We'll resume this tomorrow. Okay, next morning. Here we are back at the ranch. I ran the pump for about 5 hours last night. Didn't seem to need much more than that, especially with the quicker resin. Just be careful here we don't damage the bag. Okay. Okay. So, hopefully here we just have our boxes. Now something I thought about last night was whether I would normally put the tape on the outside of this, and I think that's what I'd normally do. The outside of the paper towel. Won't make any difference to the end result. Just make it a little bit, you know, more fiddly to get off. Essentially, once you get to the tape, I'll just do one of the Lunatic ones and one of the Rico ones just to show you what they look like when they come out. And you can see that's the peel ply. Just the weight of the tape pulling off then has dislodged this. Okay. I didn't mention it yesterday, but I coat these with a little bit of Vaseline. I get rid of any old epoxy off them, and then a coat of Vaseline, and then they pop off really well. Okay, so you will see. Just peel, peel, peel. Last one. There you go. There's the peel ply off. And what you end up with is a really tight box against the mandrel. So then it's just a matter of, and that's why you'll see I have holes on the end of the mandrel, so that I can just stick something in it, the file, and just withdraw it. There you go, there. You know, almost clean enough to go again. You know, sometimes the plastic comes off inside, sometimes it comes off on the mandrel. As with most of these things, like getting a bladder out, if you just twist lightly, out they'll pop. So there we have, nice joiner box. And on my little folder, I'll have written somewhere that the joiner itself is 360 mils. Oh, and that the joiner box is 155 millimeters long. So stick that on the trusty measuring stick. We've got a good 170 there, so 155 is easy to get out of that and get away from any little bits of thinness or irregularity on the ends. So there you go, so that's a Lunatic joiner, and of course it should just slip straight on. Okay, now again you want to get rid of all those end bits. Now the plastic, a few wraps on the plastic gives you a little bit of tolerance, but you will find that over time these will shrink a tiny bit, and that's why these are fairly tight on, same as the Ricochet ones. But all you have to do is just a very light sand on the joiner bar. Okay. One of the big guys. Now I'm yet to mount one of these into a wing. I have cores ready to go. I'm making these up specifically to go into the prototype cores. And then we'll see. But I'm sure a 30 by 12 joiner is going to be more than sufficient for the job. Okay, once again, it's just a matter of peel it open. Wow, that does not want to let go. Okay, so we can just give it a little nudge. Okay, pops off. The other side pops off. Hopefully we get enough leverage on this one. Yep. That's off too. Okay. Again, hole in the end. Yep, little slide. And there you go. As I said, sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't. And there you go. There's our box. Alright, I will do the next couple and I'll just speed it up for you to watch, just so you can see the process is quite repeatable. Sorry, had to answer the phone. And there we go. 4 beautiful joiner boxes. And if I did, I've never weighed these before, but just out of interest, those 4 weigh 54 grams. So they're about, these are going to be about 15 grams each, 16, yep, and about 11 or 12. Yep. Very good. And of course that's right on the CG, so no impact. Okay. What I thought I'd do now, seeing as I have them ready to go, is I thought I'd open the joiner bar moulds. I laid them up 2 days ago. Just grab them. So this will be the joiner bar section of the video. As you can see, this is the bigger one. This is the Ricochet joiner, and it has 2 internal socks in there. So just normal white expanded foam with a carbon sock. Here you can see part of it there wrapped around it. The Lunatic only has a single piece of foam that just goes all the way across, and then both of them just end up with 300 gram unicarbon just wrapped around them. So this one is ready to go. This one, I've just got to pull the clamps. Now of course I had many more clamps than this on it when it was going off, but after a day it's safe just to take it off. That one was just safe just to leave by itself. I did stick them out on Matthew's boat outside yesterday for a few hours just in the sun. It was only about 21 degrees or something, so just to give them a little bit of warmth. To tell you the truth, I can't remember whether I used the R240 or the R246 on this. It definitely had the super fast hardener. And all you need for this process is a persuader. So we've got a channel in the bottom and a T-piece that runs down into the channel that forms the dihedral. And the easiest way to get these things out is just hold it upside down and just give it a nudge. Just like that. And there we have one lovely little joiner. And all it really takes is just a little bit of knocking off there. Not worrying about dust because I'm not going into the carbon. I'm just taking the resin flash off. A little bit there in the middle, but it doesn't matter because it sits inside the aircraft. It doesn't have to go into the wing. Carefully, just in case. Don't want any splinters. Right, and then before we said that the length of the wing joiner was 360. So there's a line here which is the crease from the aluminium mandrel when I made it. So basically what we do is mark 180 each side. And I can go and put that through the bandsaw. Okay. Need to clean all that up later, of course. It's just flashing that's squeezed out. Alright, that's one. Next one. Okay, this one tends to be a bit tougher because there's a fair bit more area on the sidewall there that you need to break. Plus, you don't have the channel thing to hang on to, so you're just basically hanging on to the side. Let's give it a go. There we have it. Oh. I'm wondering why is there a crease in there, but that's the 3mm polycarbonate. We can just nudge out of there and I can show you. Which brings us down to a 12mm joiner instead of a 15mm joiner. So there you go. And again, it's just a matter of cleaning this stuff off. just run the trusty old sharpened scraper down it, and it just pulls it straight off. Again, this has been coated in Vaseline, so it's quite easy to get off. Okay, there's our top. If you want what I'm looking at, I've marked the ends, A, B, C, D, just so there's no cock-ups. Again, just got to be careful with this because there's definitely the possibility for there to be bits of carbon along the edge that will spike up. And that's just carbon that's been trapped as the mould's been closed. If I need to size that bar down slightly so it'll go into the joiner boxes, then I'll just wet sand it, which will take all the dust issue away, and means I can use a slightly lighter grade and still get a decent result rather than using 80 grit, which is what I've got there. Okay, so once again, just look up the folder, the Rico joiner bar, and it says finished joiner box is 196. So 196 is about 10 mils in each from both ends, which is good. And I know I've got written down somewhere that the joiner bar is 460. I'm sure it's 460. Yep, 460. So while I'm standing here, joiner bar equals 460 millimeters long. There you go. Now I've got it. Okay, so I can mark this one up now and take them both over to the bandsaw. .460 is 230. Okay, so I don't need to mark that because 460 is just right at the end. So this must be exactly 460 long. Alright, be back in a sec. Okay, so here we go. Nicely trimmed. What we need to do is clean up the ends. And of course, not only the joiner boxes that shrink, this will shrink slightly as well over a bit of time. And then with a tiny little bit of lubrication, a bit of wax or a bit of Vaseline or something, she'll be perfect. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if I might show making one of these joiner bars and tack it on to the end of the video. I suppose if you keep watching, you'll find out. But at this stage, all I've got to do is to take the boxes that I've just made and trim them back to the right size, and then they're ready to go into a wing core. That's it. I suppose the last thing I'd show you is the cutout off the end of the Lunatic joiner. You can see it's got a reasonable amount of carbon in it. And this is the end off the Rico joiner, which obviously has a similar amount of carbon around the outside, but because of the two cores has a nice run up the middle as well. So that'll be very difficult to break. Not impossible, but difficult.